So I'm going to go over to max, and there's that wall that we have. And we're going to use the Spline Tool. But there's a cool thing about Spline Tools that make our life a little bit easier too. So all I'm going to do is copy from here to here. I'm basically going to point the middle of every curve. First I'm going to do the main line, then I'll pull off the other sides. So like this is the middle of this curve, this is the middle of this curve, and then it's, well, it's not even a very good middle. So we'll do it from here to the middle of this curve to the middle of this. And then I'm going to right click, go into the editable poly. Actually, we'll just do all of them. We're going to do separate pieces for this. So we'll do, this one goes to here. No, you know what, we'll do the first one first so you can see. Okay, what are you doing? How about that? Weirdo. Okay, so inside of here, I'm going to go one to vertex, to edit the vertex selection. Then I'm going to grab this vert, I'm going to change it to Bezier, like that. Go to the move tool. Now the move tool, you want to keep it locked into X and Y, so you want to like click on X and Y and then rotate it. This little handlebar. We'll go to this one, do the same thing. I could have done both at the same time, I suppose. And like this. And you want to kind of do it this way because you get a little bit more smoother edges here. So you want to grab the handlebars to move the handlebars, but then you got to make sure you're on this way. That, and then I'll come back to this one. I probably want to have this a little bit flatter, and then move this over a little bit. Maybe drag this out so it's a little closer. And this is the same kind of thing you want to do in Photoshop. I learned this from my wife for working on UI and her pixel vector stuff inside of there. The less points you have in a curve, the more the computer does the curve work for you, and the less broken up it looks. So pretty easy. Now here's the cool part, in case you didn't know. You open up the rendering and you change it, enable it in viewport, and let me make it a color that can be seen here. Let's do purple. And it makes a thick line for you. It's actually geometry. So I can turn up the amount of subdivisions I want on it. I can turn up the thickness I want of it. Everything. It's just all simple spline. Super easy to fast to make a 3D object. And we'll go up to 12 so we get a nice curved 3D object. If we want to make it a little bit thicker so we have some room to play with it once we get it into max, that's fine. Right by default, the interpolation is usually set to optimize to 6, and as you can see, that's 1 segment, 2 segment. I don't know if you knew this, but in math there's no such thing as a curve. It's actually just smaller segments with the calculation of how many segments are divided between 2 points, and that's how you get a curve. So it's the same thing here, and by default it's set to 6, but I could go to 8, and you can see it smooths it out, but rather than do that, we just take that off and say adaptive, and it'll keep it a smooth curve all the way through for us like that. And now we've got the thickness we want. It's actually an editable poly. You can see there's the actual edges, and it's divided into whatever it needs to divide to make it look like that. The only thing is it doesn't have caps, so this one's not a big deal, but these we want to make them thicker and thinner. So we'll play with that after we build it, and it's really easy to fix. So we'll do it again here, and if you leave, when you build with a line and this on, it's going to make the next one that way too. So make sure you're always in the front viewport or the straight on viewport, because if you don't, then you're going to be fighting with that drawing in the distance and stuff. We'll click here, and let me change this so, but I'll click to here, and then I'll click to the center of that curve, and then I'll click to the center of this curve, and then I click to the center of that one, and then I'll just go to the end here. Basically, I'm making a corner piece there. Then do this. Oops, that was too low. To there, to there. This one's a dance, so I'll do it to there, there. The sharper the curve, the more points you should have. Then we do it one more or two more times, one here. I'm habit to do that. Go to there. Go to there, there. This one comes from here. The more points you have, the more of a dance you get. More fighting with it, basically. That. Like that. Okay. So I have all these pieces. They're all separate. And I need to mess with them before I change them to a full editable body. I want to mess with those curves. So even with the curves as big solid objects, I can still grab, you grab the right curve here. I can still grab that vert and say Bezier. I can still control that part. I can grab this one and say Bezier again and move it over so it's centered. And see if I can find this. Make sure on this. Move it off a little bit. And then this. Actually, just. Okay, we can't attach them to splines, so we can just do geometry, attach this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Oh, I guess we could attach the master one too. And this one. Okay. Back out. Go to 1. Grab that. Oh, you suck. Go to 1. This one. I guess we can just say Alt X so we can see all the verts. And just grab the ones we know for sure are going to be Beziers. Just grab them all. Change them all to Bezier. And we're going to get some weirdness, but we'll dance with it. And this is where if you have too many edges, then it gets in the way. Yeah, could be. Timber. So it's a dance here. So like now I look at this one and there's probably too many. So cool thing about splines is you can just delete an edge or a vert and it won't destroy the world. So probably could have done the other one better. And again, here's the other thing I want to point out too. These don't have to be perfect. One of the problems with this one is that it gets thinner as it goes in. There's ways to do that, but I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. Like this probably could go up here a little bit more. So, you know what I could do? I could show you another thing. Who's extruded from a spline before? Okay. So for this one, we'll make our life a little bit easier. I'll just delete it. We'll just leave it at this curve's position. This is still a little bit too thick, that's fine. This one, apparently I missed. Bezier, that's fine. That's fine. It's so funny because we used to use splines so often now, and then we hated them for a long time. And now they're back. Because they're great tools to build with if you didn't have to deal with the leftovers. That's pretty good. And as long as you have it on adaptive, it'll try and make it nice and clean for you. Try. It's not always going to succeed, but I'll show you that editable spline thing in a second. And the other way to handle this is to turn down the segments and use Turbo Smooth to do it too. You could do it that way. Sometimes you'll find out that's better. I should have done this as a Bezier. Even though it's Bezier corner technically, since there's only one, it should be fine with just a Bezier. And as long as you think about knowing this is going to be for ZBrush, that gives you a lot of freedom to know that it doesn't have to be perfect. Because one of the things about, ooh, it's a Bezier corner. Dynamesh is it collapses multiple meshes if they're on the same surface into one. So you can clean up some of your mess from in here on there very easily. Close enough. Oh, and the other thing I was going to point out is that it doesn't have to be perfect, because you're not necessarily saying, here's my reference, only for me, but when you're working in the industry, you're saying, this is kind of what I was going for. It doesn't have to be perfect. Because unless they have reference up. Even then, that one game I found, Plague's Tale, which I guess they're making a sequel, has, that, like I said, they used reference from an actual movie, or an actual castle that's being rebuilt. And it's not perfect by any means. It's exactly like the castle, I mean. But nobody would know that unless they're geeky like us, or the people who worked on it. Close. It's a little sharper than I thought it would be. And we can fiddle with this, and I suggest you fiddle with whatever if you have something like this for a while to get it just right. Good enough, I guess. So then I'm going to collapse it down to editable poly. And if I was working in Max, I'd want to try and clean this up, making sure there's no overlapping stuff. And since I know this final thing's going into ZBrush, I'm not too worried about it. But here's the cool thing too. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go to 4, which is the poly mode, and grab all these caps. In fact, we can even now leave those on there. And delete them. Except probably not that one yet, because I want to keep this one there. So the other thing I need to do real quick is have one cap, because they should meet in the same place here. So I'm just going to do an easy cap here. I'll grab this face, delete. Actually, no, let's try extrude. Nope, bevel, my brain's gone today. Bevel, 0, push it out, plus 0, and extrude it out, plus. And then rotate this one like this. And okay. So a couple of things that are a problem with this, if I bring it in ZBrush just like yesterday, I'm going to get in-gone problems here. So really easy to fix. I'll show you how to fix it on any 3D object. That one's a delete. That one's a delete. And by the way, if you didn't know, if you click through an object, you keep clicking the same spot, eventually it'll go through to the next object. So we want all these capped real quick. Click, click, there it is. Click, 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 there it is. Okay, so all we have to do is go 3, grab this one, and shift and scale in, and then, oops. close it. So that's just collapse. So I grab this one. Looks like I didn't delete this face here. Delete 3, grab this one, shift drag it, and then collapse. This one. And I think that, hold on, let me try something. Let's see. Shift drag, yeah. They'll all work together. You can do them all at once. I was thinking in my brain there. Alt select, so I can grab this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and I missed that one, but I'll get it in a second. This one, shift, scale, oops, shift, scale, and then collapse. Looks like I missed one, so 4, there, delete 3, and scale, shift drag, and collapse. So now I shouldn't have any ingons. If I do, oh, there's one that I missed. Shift drag, collapse. I'll find out in a second. So all I have to do is go over to selection and go to polygon mode and say bigger than 4. And looks like I have one that I missed. This one, delete 3, scale, collapse. Now I should have no more ingons. Back to polygon, no ingons. Okay, so it's a fast thing, and if you need to make more, you just scale it again and then collapse it after you get to past that point. So I'm going to take this object, I'm going to call this swirl, and I just take it into Z. Ah, it's swirled. Take it into Z, like this, and then we come to here. Okay, here's the other thing I was going to show somebody that somebody asked me. So somebody messed up or had a mess up, and they had worked on part of it and then they realized they needed the other bricks weren't done correctly, the ingons or whatever. So how do they fix that problem? All they have to do is import this new object. So when you do this for when you make your spline, if you do that kind of stuff too, you just come over to plugin, you say import, open, imported it in, and then I can mess with it right here. You can divide it up or whatever. By the way, Zbrush also has no smoothing groups. So if you see polygons, even though it wasn't polygons in yours, ignore that just means that Zbrush doesn't have smoothing groups. The way you smooth things in Zbrush is you divide it. You make it more and more versions of itself. So we'll come back to subtool, and if we go to this object, like this, I'm going to keep pushing the button. All you're going to do is you're going to insert. Now I put it over here, but insert is in right here. There's insert and append. Append adds it at the end of the stack of your sub-object tools. Insert puts it wherever you are. I just always use insert, so if I need to go to the end, I'll drag it to the end, but generally speaking, insert. So you go insert and you'll see all the tools that I have listed, including that swirl I just imported right here. I just say insert, and now it's inserted, and it should be in the same spot. It should be the same scale because we brought it in at that scale. It should work together with the one we just made. Okay, and then I can come in here and I can either try and divide it first to see, because I'm worried that when I divide it, I'm going to get some weird stuff going on here, but we'll see what happens if I divide it. See, I get some weird stuff. So what we could try and do, because I want to keep this rounded, I'm going to have to round it by hand if not. So we could try that same thing we did for the rounding of everything else. We go into polygroups, we say group by normal, we'll try 45s, check it, and we'll just do solo for now. So every edge has its own polygroup, which is perfect. Now we can come back into geometry, go to crease, and say crease by polygroup. So now we have those edges done. Now when we smooth, it should keep those edges hard or sharp and not be weird on them, and still get us our smooth faces. So we have this smooth stuff, and then we can just leave it at this big, oh geez, 7 million. Let's back up. Whoa. How about 480? Alright, sure too. Well, yeah, it's a problem is you don't have smoothing groups, so things have to be divided to make them look smooth. Okay, let's go down one more just for the ease of sake, and we'll delete lower. So we have this as a locked object, and now what Dynamesh does is any separate elements that are part of the same object are made into the same object. They actually cap and they put them all in there. So I'm going to start with a Dynamesh of 1500 because I want to see what it's going to do because of the scale issue that we have in here. Okay, no, undo. Oh, delete higher. Okay. Yeah, if you go up and decide to come back down, that one's still part of your subdivisions. You just have to delete both. When you delete the lower, you need to delete the higher. It just needs to be no subdivisions. So we'll try this again at 1500, not 15,000, 1500 and Dynamesh. And it worked pretty good. 1 second. Alright, so now, but if you look at it, I want to show you what it did. It actually sealed these all up. It actually closed them. Okay? Now remember, this is just for this part. So do I care? Do I want it to be sealed or not? I need to get rid of these and make them smaller. So how do I do that? I turn my dynamic back on for some reason. It was off. And then I hold shift and I can pretty much just, and then use the move tool, which I set to W, but it's just B, M, and then, oops, not B, but B, M, I think it's T. No, that's not the one you want. You want just standard move. Where are you move? Oh, V. Okay, so I can just move this a little bit and then keep, you know, all I'm doing is smoothing, using the smooth tool, so the shift button, smooth this out a little bit, pull this up. You know, you're pretty much just sculpting at this point. I'm doing it with my mouse, so it can't be that hard. Okay, this, pull it out. This, pull it out. Just try and get it all smoothed up. I can smooth some of this out. Come over here, we know that's the cap. So I'm not even worried if it's not perfect because again, we're doing the idea of it, not the exact thing. Like this is pretty bad, so I'm going to pull this in a little bit and then smooth it. Tighten this one up. Maybe pull this out and give it a little bit more thickness. There's another brush in here called Inflate. So if I do, I have a shortcut to Alt-I, Shift-I, or Alt-I, but it's just Inflate. So if I say I, inside the brush tool menu, you'll see Inflate, which I have right there. So if I wanted this thicker, I could just make it thicker, and then again, it's really strong, so I can pull it down so I get this on a little bit thicker. Really, the idea is this is you're just like you're sculpting, hopefully. And then this one will shift into this, go back to the move tool. And even if this was correct, I might, in fact, pull back out and then move it up. Okay, I think, now, let me pull this down a little bit. Okay, pull this in. Now like this, change it to the lasso. I do a mask around this because I don't want to grab that. I just want to grab this and bend it up a little bit. I can pull back out a little bit, bend it up a little bit more. Try not to hit that. Oops. Smooth that right there. And now, all these weird gaps and stuff, if I do that again, it's going to fill them up because that's what, anything that's a certain distance apart when you Dynamesh will fix it. Or attach them. Sometimes you don't want to do, but in this case it would be fine. And now I'm just sculpting it out. So I got that. And then I go back out of solo. I've got something, oh, I forgot one, but that's fine. If I want to keep it, then I can come back and do it again. And if I don't, then I'm fine there too. This over, you know, and I can just totally sculpt what I want. I can keep pulling faces, and now I'm losing polygons, right, because it's not even. So I shift and drag off the object, and it should, I think, actually I guess for Dynamesh, it needs to be off the object completely. Anyway, I could noodle with this for days. Okay. So now I just have to, oh my, okay. It's fine, it's fine. Okay. Move tool, make sure I'm straight on here. And W, and we'll just do Alt, middle mouse, or Alt button there. Shift and drag, because I'm thinking max. Now I want to Control Shift D to duplicate the object and then move it over. And line it up. Actually, I don't want to go anything but one direction, so like that. And then Control Shift D again for duplicate and drag this one over to here. And they should be tiling now. I think, yeah, because it's about right there. And we can play with it to make it work and stuff. But don't worry about the hang off. We're going to take care of that. But first thing we need to do is make sure that these are all one object, because obviously they're a little bit off. Like this one's right there and this one's halfway through. They aren't going to be perfect. So let's deal with that. I'm going to take this center one and I'm going to use one of my favorite tools, which is merge down, which I actually have over here, but I'm going to do it this way. Merge down, say OK. It should merge that one to that one. And then merge down one more time, and we should get this one attached to this one. Now we can come in here and use our move or scale tool and try and get them to match a little bit better here. So that one, we should just try and go to, interesting. Apparently I didn't. So we need to move this one. We'll ignore the background at this point because the background is what the image was, so we'll just make sure we're focused on the actual objects here. So zoom back out. And that is my document size. Huh. Okay. Like this. And we'll just go to the tip there. This out. So now it should tile pretty being good. All right, and you can spend the time to get these perfect and stuff. Right now we're just trying to get it done. Anyway, that's it. Next we'll go over how to do something more complicated like this. Just try and get everything done, and we'll see you on the next slide.